I'm here in Paris, France, and I'm going to show you what things are like both during confinement and what things are like now that confinement has sort of ended. At least it's not like it was before. First thing you can notice right away is I'm not out here alone. During confinement, this place was empty. So, just a few short weeks ago, things were really different here. The scene was really quiet and really pretty eerie. All of Paris was just empty.
So during confinement, people were able to leave their homes for a few things. People could leave their homes for 1 hour a day to exercise, and we were also allowed to leave our homes to do things like grocery shopping. But if we went grocery shopping, we had to stay basically like within a half a mile of our home. I think that's the right calculation. It was like 1 kilometer from our home, but I'm American, so I'm not so good with with kilos and things like that. So we had to stay pretty close to home. Now for me, that was really tough because all of my favorite stores and my favorite places to shop are well over that distance from my home. But of course, I'm a rule follower, at least the majority of the time. I don't like to break major rules. So I did stay within the required boundaries when I went out, but it was really difficult.
Basically, the only things that were open during confinement were grocery stores and pharmacies. Other than that, things were closed. So restaurants were allowed to open for delivery and for takeout. But here's the thing, French people aren't super into takeout in the same way that I think Americans are. So a lot of restaurants just stayed closed the whole time.
Okay, check this out. This is the Louvre Museum during confinement. Now, of course, normally this place would be packed with tourists as far as the eye can see, pretty much. I mean, it's like the biggest museum in the world. I think it's the biggest. If not, it's one of the top two. So normally there are people everywhere. During confinement, not so much. There are just a few stragglers here and there. The museum is closed. The museum was closed the entire time. It actually still hasn't reopened yet. But when I've walked by, I do see people now starting to go inside. It looks like they're preparing to ramp things up again. But for now, this place is a ghost town.
Things were really kind of next level here. I mean, I feel like things were sort of next level everywhere. Just being confined in general and anyway was really difficult, I know, for all of us. But here, we had a little extra hassle that I didn't hear about with any of my friends in the US or in some other countries. So here, the way it worked is, anytime a person wanted to go out or to leave their home, we had to carry with us an attestation. All right, so what is that? So it's kind of like an affidavit. It's like a legal document that explained where we live, why we were leaving home, and it had the time on it, the date and time. So we were only allowed to stay within like a half a mile from our home, and only for approved reasons. Like once a day, we were allowed to go out and exercise, and also we were allowed to go out and buy groceries or go to the doctor. Other than that, a lot of things were restricted. So you had to carry this affidavit with you, but you had to carry this around. And if you didn't have it, or if it wasn't filled out correctly, police would stop people when they were out, and you could absolutely get a fine if you don't have this done correctly or you're out for an unapproved reason. So it was very real here in Paris.
For me, once confinement started, I barely went out. I mean, I think in the beginning, I spent probably like 3 weeks at home without leaving at all, not even to go grocery shopping. I bought everything online, did all my shopping that way, had things delivered, and that was it. But I must admit, once I started leaving the house to go grocery shopping and to run little errands, it was nice. It felt really nice to be out, although it was pretty creepy.
So some countries and cities have numerical systems to determine how things are going. Phase 1, phase 2. So France has zones, red zones. That's not where you want to be. That's where we were. Paris was a red zone. So red zones, orange zones, and green zones. So right now, Paris is actually considered an orange zone. So back when it was a red zone, movements were very restricted. People couldn't do much. Now it's an orange zone. Things are a lot lighter. The president is actually supposed to speak soon, so maybe he'll give even more updates. But for now, that's the status. I hope the audio is okay. Bear with me. I'm trying to talk through this mask, trying to stay safe and make some videos out here. So now restaurants can open, but only for outdoor seating. Now, some French restaurants already have a huge terrace. It's just a normal part of their setup, but not every restaurant had that. That has led to some comical setups where some people don't have enough sidewalk space, so they'll set up in spaces that would normally be reserved for cars that are parking or idling. Those are now spots that are in the street that are for people to sit and eat. I didn't mean that to rhyme. It just sort of happened. Just the other night, I went out for dinner for the first time. For the first time since before we were confined. I mean, literally, it had been months since I've gone out to eat. Now, of course, during confinement, I did order in food a few times, but this was my first time sitting down, going to a restaurant.
This is one of the places where the seats are in the street, but it was really nice and cozy sitting here. They had a little area that was protected from cars going by, although it was a little strange when cars did actually go by while we were sitting and eating. But all in all, it's great to be out and really nice to support these businesses again.
I went super early because I didn't want actually I didn't want to have to deal with smokers, but it's France, so you always have to deal with smokers. But I went early so I wouldn't have to deal with too many people out smoking, but it was really nice, and it's nice to sort of start to feel a little bit normal again, if that's possible. Parisians are really happy to have things getting back to normal. I swear I've never seen people so happy to be out again. Restaurants, bars, people are out. And even here on the Seine. So the river that goes through Paris is called the Seine, and people are out, happy to be out sitting. Sometimes people will have like little picnics and snacks on the water. So it's really nice to see people having a good time. And people are social distancing. So even here you can see people are sitting in the groups that they came in, or sitting in couples, but they're keeping distance between those groups. So during confinement, you would absolutely see people standing in long lines waiting for groceries. Now there are people standing in long lines waiting to go shopping again, but this time it's not for groceries. It's definitely for clothes and other fun things now that stores are open again. But unlike during confinement when things were closed and before, now the number of people that are allowed in stores is really limited. So you will see lines and things like that of people waiting to get in now because of these new changes.
So let's talk about masks. You may notice that not everyone is wearing one, and that's because here in France, wearing masks is not strictly required, at least not all the time. On subways, buses, places like that, masks are absolutely required in order to enter. Even some stores require masks, but that seems like it's up to the store owners. But when it comes to restaurants and going out or walking around, masks are not required. But servers and waiters at restaurants do tend to wear masks themselves. Of course, there are pros and cons to everything. And when it comes to the confinement and the virus, we had to do what we had to do so that people would stay safe. But I must say, there were a few nice things that I think people noticed as a result of confinement. There was no pollution. The streets of Paris were so nice and breathable. The air was so clean and clear. And even noise pollution can be really huge here in Paris. The streets were quiet. Now, sometimes it was a bit too quiet, but at times there was a niceness about the quiet as well. So that is over. The streets are nice and noisy, smoky, trashy again. But it's also really nice to see people out. And I have an update. Since I was out recording this video, Paris is no longer an orange zone. Paris is actually now green. All of France is considered a green zone. So, great news. Everything seems to be going in the right direction. Don't forget to let me know how things are going on your end. What's your experience like? What's going on where you are? Is confinement letting up? Is it still going on? Are things getting better? Does it seem to be going down? Leave me a comment and tell me how it's going.
If you like this video, make sure you subscribe to my channel. I'm an American currently living here in Paris, France, and I love to travel and have a good time. And I love to talk to people. It's one of my favorite things.
So make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.